Hey there guys, SCMothership checking in again, going over the games from Group F to fill you in on what happened between generic Greenwings Maru, SKT1's Classic, CJ Entus' Hydra, and the currently teamless Symbol. Alright, so the first match is between Maru, the final Terran to have a chance of advancing to the round of 16, and Classic, a domineering Protoss player for SK Telecom's T1. Starting out on Polar Knight, Maru goes for a standard safe Reaper expand, is looking strong with the free probe kill even with the Mothership core out. With the Twilight Council of Classic, he looks set up to do a Bleak all-in, but after getting scouted, then goes for a more late game play, putting down a Forge and quick Templar Archives. Neither player goes for a quick third, and both players just sit back and tech up, until Maru decides to move out with Stim and Medivacs to pressure Classic. But neither player really takes too much damage in the small skirmishes. Maru continues to try and pull Classic out of position if Classic takes his third, but in many back and forth engagements, Maru slowly picks Classic apart with a heavy Marauder force, and even snipes the main Nexus. Classic, though, playing responsibly, has been systematically adding in Immortals and eventually gains a strong foothold with the solid army still remaining. Against the mainly pure Marauder forces, Classic causes a lift of Maru's third that eventually allows Classic to pull to victory in game number 1. The Terran Hope Maru is now down 1 game, and we are hopping into heavy rain. Classic this game actually commits to the incredibly powerful Blink Stalker all-in, but Maru, the incredible player that he is, scouts it again with the Reaper. Taking a page out of Pult's book, Maru rides out to meet him and gets a pretty good engagement in the center of the map, taking out a good number of Stalkers and pulling back to play defensively before this true storm comes out. Classic makes use of the heavily cliffed main, but after 2 kinda iffy blinks, pulls back and techs up the Templar Storm. Maru, making a similar mistake as Supernova did on this map, tries pressuring at the natural and overcommits and tries to divide and conquer, but gets divided and conquered himself. In a sick engagement, Classic, having picked away at Maru's army, takes an insane engagement using a hallucinated Colossus to gain vision and storms a large portion of army at the top of Maru's ramp, ravaging the natural of Maru. Maru tries to hold and micros his little heart out, but eventually with superb play, Classic takes the second game, demonstrating exactly why Protosses are doing so well in GSL Code S. Now, the second series of the night was between Symbol and Hydra, 2 very strong Zergs facing off on a ZVZ. Game 1 begins with a hatch first out of Symbol and a pool first out of Hydra. Symbol, the first player to reveal his hand, decides to go for defensive Banelings while Hydra gets +1 armor, which will allow his Lings to not get one-shotted by Baneling, and goes for an all-in with the 3rd base for extra production. Symbol goes for a faster layer and begins going up to Spydra as this attack begins to ramp up though, and Hydra, with some seemingly poor control, keeps purposely running Banelings into spines and clusters up his Lings, losing a ton to Baneling hits. Symbol is in such a transitionary period that the +1 armor is so much that the trading of Lings and Banelings for drones puts Symbol further and further behind. Symbol's mutas do come out, but with Queens and Spores galore at the main of Hydra, the early game damage and the mid game aggression appears to be too much for Symbol, and he goes for one last push that barely gets held off, giving Hydra the early lead in this series. Symbol loses game number 1. Game 2 is on Yansu, a smaller map, and Hydra goes for an early pool while Symbol goes hatch and gas before a pool, but cancels the hatch right when he sees the Lings. Symbol defends pretty well, but Hydra gets his hatch up far more quickly, so Symbol counters with a large number of Lings while Hydra is teching up to Roaches. With misplaced Queens and the Roaches not being out quickly enough to defend, the back and forth nature of ZVZ means that Symbol miraculously takes game number 2. The final game between Hydra and Symbol takes place on Heavy Rain, Hydra's map choice. Symbol again goes for the greedy hatch gas then pool, which luckily Hydra does not do an early enough pool to capitalize on with. Symbol reveals his intentions first, going for Roaches and being aggressive, trying to push that early economic advantage. With the delayed spine out of Hydra and so many units, Symbol is able to deal some damage and defends the counter from Hydra pretty well. With the economic advantage that he now believes to be at though because of the Lings that he produced, Symbol feels that his counter must do crippling damage to Hydra to stand a chance. which they are not able to do, and GG's out quickly. Taking a look at the winners matchup, it is going to be Hydra versus Classic. Will Hydra be able to prevent another Protoss from advancing? We begin with the pretty standard game number 1, Classic going for a safe gateway expand and Hydra going hatch pool, then his third. Now, as it has been becoming more popular on Habitation Station, Classic goes for the gold base, then gets a quick third at the natural, and Hydra oddly does not expand at the gold, taking the further away southern bases instead. Neither player committing too much to an attack, both players play defensively, teching up. Classic going for Robo after getting a large gateway army, and Hydra playing a Ling Hydra style while building up to Swarmos. Right before Classic is able to power up with the gold base, and without Colossi, Hydra gets a pretty good engagement against Classic, between the third and the natural with the Lings and Hydras dealing a lot of damage to the third. However, never really getting that tipping point of Swarmos and staying true to his name, going heavily committed to Hydras, Hydra gets overran by a 3-base committed huge Stalker Colossus army, and Classic takes game number 1. Daedalus Point is the arena for battle in the next game, and again we see both players playing passively. But personally, I feel that Classic keeps getting the better end of this deal, with Hydra never trying to take advantage of Classic's greed, nor being terribly greedy himself. Hilariously, Classic sends Elucidated Colossus that actually gets in the main to scout during this passive period. Without the Stargate tech out yet, Hydra goes to Mutas, which allows him to get rid of the Warp Prism and buys time for his Swarmos, which Hydra gets a larger amount of this game. Classic, without Colossi and having a huge gateway army, does not commit to Phoenixes, and the small air army of Classic gets caught off guard by the Corruptors and Mutas of Hydra, forcing a solid cancel on the 4th. Without too much intense pressure out of Hydra though, Classic is able to get that Protoss Death Ball and his 4th base, while Hydra gets a delayed 5th and stays steady in a passive position in the center of the map. Suddenly, as Hydra is morphing his Broodlords, Classic takes an outstanding engagement and bullets to the heart of Symbol, taking a confident game number 2. This means that another Protoss advances to the round of 16 of GSL Code S, and that Hydra will have to face off against the winner of Maru vs. Symbol. It is now up to Maru to kindle the flames of Terrans and fight off Symbol in a ZVT for the ages. On Habitation Station, we have a standard Reaper expand out of Maru and a hatch first from Symbol. Maru follows up with Reactored Hellions and Banshees with Cloak as Symbol takes his third, which Symbol is aware of. With a good surround and nice queen placement, Symbol is able to deflect the early waves of aggression, and Maru backs into Bio with Hellbat play while getting his third at the gold. While Maru goes for a potentially lethal double drop with Hellions and the 2 Banshees, he seems distracted as Lings run into the main and Maru is forced to retreat, allowing the Mutas and Banelings of Symbol to get made. Symbol's incredibly safe and concise play seems to effortlessly defend everything that Maru throws at him. And, as we see Terrans do time and time again, Maru overcommits and gets overran straight to his production facilities, which causes him to GG out. This is the last chance for Maru to continue on in the GSL, and the last chance for Terrans to have more than one representative in the round of 16. The match is played on Yansu with the same exact openings as the last game, except Maru makes 3 Reapers instead of 2, and then goes for the same Reactor Hellion Banshee push, this time with the later Cloak that Symbol sees coming again. Unfortunately, Maru gets too far onto creep and gets completely surrounded, and this time loses everything except for 1 weakened Banshee, putting Maru in a tough position while Symbol's sitting pretty in line to get Mutas and Banelings. Maru actually begins to pull ahead in supply, mixing in Siege Tanks and Thors, and pushes out as he takes his 4th, which proves to be his saving grace as he pulls himself out of the fire and takes game number 2. Maru, in potentially his last game in Season 1 Code S of 2014, proxies a single barrack smack dab in the middle of the largest map in the map pool, Alter Z Malter, and Symbol goes hatch first into pool with gas, not the greediest possible opener. The bunker gets down, forcing out more lanes while Maru takes his natural. But without too many losses on either side, Maru pulls out and he gets a quick third base, giving him potentially a slight advantage. He follows up again with Reactor Hellions and Cloaked Banshees, which gets seen again by Symbol. However, the early Reaper pressure proves to be taking its toll as the Reaper Hellion push this time deals insane damage, killing all the Lings and Queens at the natural Symbol, giving Maru the worker lead and a huge advantage going into the later stages of the game. Maru, with another attack just as the mutas are getting out, splits like the Marine Prince he is, kills the hatchery and ekes out the needed win to move on in the group to face off against Hydra, another Zerg. And now we take a look at the final series of the night between Hydra and Maru. Okay, again Maru will have to face off against another Zerg, and again he opens up with the Reaper Expand against the Hatch first, Gas, then pull out of Hydra on Yonsu. This time, Maru gets a quicker third, but still with Reactor Hellions and a Banshee follow-up. Hydra, with a large amount of Lings being produced and an early Baneling nest, sets up for a Baneling bust, while Maru gets a run-by with the Hellions and Reapers, which appears to be poised to do some damage, but that never really comes into fruition. He is though able to see the upcoming attack, prompting bunkers due to his lack of units. So many Banelings go crashing into the natural of Maru, and in a dismaying end, Maru gets ran over, taking the first loss in the series. Maru, not messing with his mojo, gets 3 Reapers out, gets Reactor Hellions out, and a third base, and Hydra does the same opener as last game as well. The 3 Reapers in Maru, however, are actually able to kill a good number of Lings and a Queen, which is a huge variance from the other Reaper expands that we've seen so far. Hydra, going up to layer, nearly loses his natural, and Maru, with intense micro and sick positioning, picks off Queens. The mutas, though, get out, and the push gets dealt with without a hatchery loss. In fact, with so many unit losses on Maru's side, the Ling Muta follow-up almost kills Maru, but he deflects it and it ends up being a slight over-aggression by Hydra this time. A big drop by Maru abuses the known position of the mutas and picks off the weakened hatchery, but Hydra has already taken a fourth and Maru loses a lot of Marines and medevacs. In a back-and-forth engagement, Maru splits against the Banelings and seems to be overpowering, but then Hydra pushes back with the large muta count, and with a clutch Thor medevac pickup and a few Hellbats and Marines, Maru repels again. A full surround by Hydra seems to clean up the push, even with great micro by Maru. But in a nail-biting, intense moment, both players reinforce with every bit they have, and it comes down to the last swing of units. And in an incredulous win for Maru, he takes game number 2. Now, game number 3. With momentum on his side after a strong win, Maru goes for a double proxy racks on Habitation Station, showing his mettle with his whole GSL life on the line. And simultaneously, Hydra goes for a hatchery first, but the Overlord sees an SCV leaving, and Hydra knows. Maru pulls SCVs, and drones get pulled as well, and they travel far. The bunker gets up though, while the pool finishes, spines are made, but it is not enough. Maru wins, and he will join Byung as one of the 2 Terrans in the GSL Code S round of 16. Well, after one of the most insane ends to a group that I've ever seen, Classic will move on 2-0 along with Maru after some amazing comebacks. Unfortunately, the Zerg, Symbol, and Hydra will have to fight through Code A for a chance at Code S next season. Thank you guys so much for watching, and if you're wondering if I'll be doing the recap videos on Group C, D, or E, I will. I just wanted to get the most recent one out before getting back to those. Anyways guys, like always, SCMothership checking out. Thanks.